Welcome back. We had a double header today. It's your guys Reedie Zee here to touch and talk about the NFL tampering period, day one. We had a few signings earlier. We were live and we, kind of giving you the guys the breaking news. The day started out slow. We kind of heated up towards, the latter part of the day, and we still got more to come. So we have a special guest, that we're bringing you to kind of give you some inside news. So make sure you stay tuned. Reedie Zee going live shortly.
It's the Reedie Zee Show. Reedie Zee Show. It's the Reedie Zee Show. Reedie Zee Show. Reedie Zee Show.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How's everybody?
We are fine.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. So
Okay,
we have ourselves a special guest, Mrs. Candi Waller of Bowie TV Sports. We'd like to thank you for coming in and joining us, and talk about our favorite team.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. I had to look back at the messages. Like, I think we tried to do this during the season, and of course it just went on. So I'm glad I was able to come on.
Yeah, no question.
Absolutely.
We're glad to have you. But if you haven't already, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe to @Reedie Zee on all platforms, as well as check out Miss Candi Waller at Bowie TV Sports. So yeah, we get right into it today with the tampering period. Of course, it started at noon, and we were actually live earlier, and it was about like an hour and 45 minutes in, and we were just kind of talking and seeing everybody name flying off the board, and we're not really kind of making the moves or these fireworks that AP talked about, or the trending news around our team. So we had a lot of questions, but then we got, of course, the first news to break was Laremy Tunsil getting himself a 2-year extension, which ended up being worth $60.2 million, and it said it's featuring 61.5 guaranteed with 32.5 at signing. And then that was followed by the big breaking news that we signed Odafe Owe. He agreed to a 4-year, $100 million contract, 68 guaranteed. And we'll touch on some of the others as well. But first up, Candi, like, how you feeling? What was your thoughts around the first two, balls to drop?
I think these were anticipated. Laremy Tunsil represents himself, so I think I tweeted, like maybe a couple other folks did as well, but I know I tweeted and said, hey, if you haven't had a chance to go and look at Laremy Tunsil's IG stories, you should. And so I would take his posts and his stories from yesterday afternoon, last night, to have been a good sign that this was going to happen. Adam Peters has been vocal about two things. One, how pleased he was with, Laremy Tunsil. Of course, Coach Quinn as well. We remember back during the season, we know that Cliff Kingsbury is no longer with the Washington Commanders, but he made a point to say he's going to get a lot of money. So, this should not have been a surprise. And then with Laramie's stories, and then today, it's just a matter of timing and getting things done in that regard. And so it was known that the team was very, very much pleased. So the extension was going to happen. He is still under contract for this season, so then this contract would then take him through 2028.
Correct.
So that's good news. In terms of Odafe Owe, Bowie TV covered Odafe when he was with the Baltimore Ravens. Last year, I was thinking he may go back to the Ravens with head coach Jesse Minter, because he had done so well under Jesse Minter's defense. We know that all of his athletic abilities, all of the things, but he had a little bit of a slow period with the Baltimore Ravens. But that came right back up. He was right back into the groove, even more so, where it was almost like he was improving each game last year with the Chargers. This was also a name that was in the hat. We knew that it could potentially be a very good fit for Coach Jones' defense, which I mean, of course, he's not going to get into. And I just love to continue to remind folks of what he said. It's not where they line up, it's where they wind up. I'm like, hey, Coach need to put this on a shirt. So I think it fits for what they're talking about and what they're doing. So those two names that you just asked me about, I mean, of course, there were some other things that happened today as well, but I think those were exactly the direction that you would want to see today. This is just day one, everybody. It's just day one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of my things was a lot of time when we made the signing, when we saw the name, a lot of people was happy, and we have, a few different text threads, but we started getting texts once the numbers dropped, and everybody's saying 4 years, 100 million, 25 a year. Is he worth that? We could have paid $5 more million to get Trey at 30 and things of that nature. And one of the things that my response was that this is a potential. We're signing him based off potential. We're signing him based off his upside. So anything to kind of add there, what you think, like what the team was thinking as far as, giving him that money, and people may look at his stats and look at his record and think he may not be worth that.
I mean, I think it all depends on one thing that I've learned, especially from this regime, is like you got to be able to see what the fine print is. And we don't know what the fine print is. If it's one thing that we learned from last year, even when Terry's first contract was first shared, remember, like the very next day or 2 days later, somebody found the fine print and was like, oh, this is what this really means. Yes. So I would say just hold on before really critiquing what these contracts actually say, because one, we don't know. Two, it'll be a little bit more time before you really get into the nuts and bolts of what each one of them say. But Adam hasn't overpaid anybody yet, so I don't think that that's the case here either.
Sure.
Yeah, to add to that, I don't think it's an overpay. I think it's just the market. The market went up, so maybe he might have been a player that was at 18, 20 million last year. But, now with the market going up over 300 million, that 25 is what that was yesterday. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's necessarily an overpaying. Like you said, last year when we seen what came out with Terry, like the true numbers are kind of hidden. They kind of let the agents, put out the numbers so it looks good for their guys and get their media coverage, and then we find out what the real numbers are later.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another signing that a lot of people kind of had a lot to say about. We're looking at Amik Robertson. He was a guy that came out of Detroit. He signed a 2-year, $16 million deal, $9.3 million guaranteed. And when I looked at that deal, I'm saying, okay, he got $9.3 guaranteed. This is somebody that they expect to, be on the field at, to get a good share of, plays on the field. So, looking at that signing, I'm like, okay, maybe he can be the slot guy, play that nickel, and we can kind of, move Mikey back on the outside. But as you mentioned, Daronte Jones plans to move a lot of people around, so we don't necessarily know exactly where he would be. But for some people that's looking at this signing, like, okay, who is he? Why did he get? Why we couldn't go get like a Jamel Dean who signed for, I believe he had like $12 million a year. So there's only a few more, maybe 4 to 5 more million. Why couldn't we make a move like that? So just kind of looking at that. And Robertson, I don't know a whole lot about, but from my research, everything that I've been seeing is pretty much like he's gutsy, he's physical, he's aggressive, and which fits that mold that Daronte talks about and wanting in his cornerback. So, how's your thoughts there?
I mean, I think the underlying message here is exactly what you just said in terms of versatility, because this is a player who can play inside or out, right? He can do both. I have asked that question directly, and he can do both. I think as far as my preference, I would like to see Mikey go back outside. That was something that I was saying as early as week 4 back during the season. Like, just please somebody put Mikey back outside, anybody, but I think that was actually in week 4. That was actually a game in where they had him at the nickel, right? He played at the Buffalo nickel spot in that game that was against the Atlanta Falcons. So this is going to be interesting with what they're going to do with the cornerback. And it's also would be interesting to see if they were going to bring Jonathan Jones back, because that was a part of the conversation this offseason as well, if Jonathan Jones was coming back. So this is where I'm kind of like, okay, let's see what happens. I was aware that day one early on probably wouldn't be as loud, right? There's still a lot of time in this, and there's still some very good potential pieces still out there available. I think one of the things that I would just encourage anybody to do when they're looking at their team or what have you is, did the move make the team better? Did they get better at the position? Based on who the opponents are next season, is this a better option than what they currently have? I think we can all confidently say, yes, it is. And so with that, again, I'm going back to the numbers, and I don't think the numbers are that bad. But this is another versatile player, plays with that overall aggression, very cerebral, very smart. Mikey is very smart. We know that Mikey wasn't as, we didn't see all the great things that, in terms of progression from his first year last year. I do think it was scheme related. So we'll see what happens, but he fits the mold of exactly what Durante Jones has shared with us so far publicly that he wants to see out of his defense.
So with the signing of, we brought back Tim Settle today. That was the last move that they just made. I'm saying, like, in the comments all over Twitter and as well as Instagram and all the other socials, like, the fan base is kind of like up at odds about it. Like, I used to tell Z, like, I feel like Settle got better when he was in Buffalo and when he was at his other stops than he was, when we initially drafted him in 2018. So, like, what are your thoughts on Settle, and what are your thoughts on, like, some of the fan base saying, like, maybe we should move on from a Johnny Newton to try to get in the sweepstakes for, was it Brian Thomas Jr.?
I mean, I totally agree that I think when Tim Settle was here, he wasn't utilized effectively. I think that we've all been able to see him, especially to your point of the mention of, but what you saw of him in Buffalo, that's what he can be. And even more so, we saw them go through a lot of rotational players. I'm talking about this regime. It needed to get better. It needed to get better on the inside. They did. And this is an opportunity to do that. And you know that Tim Settle is familiar with the area. He's familiar with the fan base. But again, it goes back to that notion of versatility and being able to be cerebral, be able to be smart, be able to get to the quarterback, even able to get that pressure consistently. And this is a player that can do that, especially when you're looking at your rotational players, especially when you start to look, bringing people in and out of the rotation, your depth players as well. Absolutely, 100%. And this is somebody who could potentially be vying for an actual starter spot. We got to see what happens there, right? There's some things is moving around. But again, did they get better with him? Yes, I absolutely think they did. As soon as I saw it, I was like, well, that makes sense, right? Because that has actually been, interior of the line has been something that I know I've been talking about. Like, okay, what are some of the areas, we haven't gone to offense yet, so let's stay with defense. I'm like, what are they going to do with the interior part of the defensive line? We knew the setting of the edge. Everybody knew that. And we all knew that that was a lot of injuries. There were injuries that happened that impacted that, but there were still opportunities to get better even without the injuries. So hopefully everybody stays healthy. There's still a movement that can go there. I'm not sure about moving on from Johnny Newton. This year is a big year for the 2024 draft class. Huge year. For that class. And I'm talking about everybody. Nobody's left. Nobody's on it. Nobody's exempt. This is a big year for the 2024 Washington Commanders draft class all around. But a lot of their big year is going to rely on how the coordinators use them. Yeah. And I think, again, based on what Coach Jones has said, I think Tim Settle is perfect. I really do, for what he's looking to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans will in our group chat and then some other forums that I've seen today, they were basically like trying to pull up the stat line from last year, and the amount of games that he played and stuff like that, and basically saying like, well, we could have we kind of overspent on him to do what he's able to do. But I think he's like one of those kind of bigger bodies that can kind of eat up space to kind of keep whatever linebackers if they decide to bring Bobby Wagner back or whoever they go get in this free agency or in the draft, keep them clean and let them flow and make tackles. But because traditionally that's what your defensive tackles are there to do anyway, not always rush the passer. You know what I mean? So I just think that a lot of the fan base kind of gets caught up in the tackles and the sacks and stuff like that, and just not in the traditional role of a defensive tackle.
I mean, you have to be disruptive. One of the things that I've been sharing is really in the last 2 Super Bowls, we saw what the Eagles did to the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago. And then in the Super Bowl, then you saw this year's Super Bowl where you saw both teams, their defensive lines they're just disruptive. They're just disruptive, just everything, just disrupt. Because then you put the quarterback under pressure. The quarterback is more expected to make mistakes. That can't come from your second and your third levels. That kind of disruption has to come from your line. And there was often too many times alongside of the challenges with setting the edge. But quite frankly, let's all be honest. We saw quarterbacks and running backs just going right through the middle of that defensive line. We did. And so it's got to be stout. It has to be fast. And it's got to cause disruption. By the time you get, yes, your linebackers need to tackle. And that's another thing that I like to say from a defensive perspective that all these guys are very good at is tackling. I think that everybody got, even for myself, and this is one of the questions I had to ask Coach Quinn back during the season, because I was trying to show a little bit of grace. Right. I know there was some, emphasis on takeaways, but I'm like, well, what about the tackling? Is it that they're trying to get the takeaway and punch the ball out? This is why they're not getting to the tackles. You got to tackle. And a lot of that tackling and that disruption needs to happen at the first level. The Houston Texans were amazing at that as well. Right. Just running up, getting to wherever the ball is, we're going to get to it. It doesn't need to don't even get it out. Mm-hmm. And so I see that's what they're doing. They got some tacklers because I know Bobby Wagner gets a bad rap to some.
Yeah.
Coverage. But as far as I'm concerned, any of the linebackers weren't all that good in coverage. You know what I mean? You got to tackle. You got to tackle first. And there was just too many missed tackles as a whole with the defense. And what they did get today was some very, very good tacklers.
Yeah, and I've been on the record. I've been beating the desk for Bobby Wagner to return because that's great production. Like maybe he may not be a traditional 3-down linebacker. Every 3-down linebacker where he's on the field and passing situations. But if you can get whatever you can get out of him on first and second down during run situations, then take him off the field. He may have to be a situational guy, but he's still playing at the highest level at this point with, over 100 tackles. Like for his age, like that's unheard of.
It's completely unheard of. When you look, if people are looking at stat lines, if you were to look at his stat line and look at the percentage of missed tackles, he doesn't miss tackles. So some of these were situational. Some of them, I'll go back to week 4, Atlanta Falcons. He just should not be covering Bijan. Why?
Yeah, he shouldn't. Yeah.
That was just, I'm sitting in the press box like, why are you doing this right here? Hold on. So it's not shade to him. It's just your opponent. That's all, because we know exactly what he's capable of. But to that point, getting to the quarterback and having a disruptive defensive line, because that is where it starts.
Yeah, absolutely. So who would you think, like, of some of the names that still left? Now, who do you think would still be good fits? I know, so Reedie and I definitely made lists. We both had Devin Lloyd on our list as we think would be a good fit.
If it's a huge if you are in fact moving away from Bobby Wagner, then you would absolutely need to be signing Devin Lloyd. That needs to be why you're moving on from Bobby Wagner, is because you have absolutely locked in Devin Lloyd. Yes.
Do you see Bobby back in a capacity where he's not on the field 100% of the time?
If I was asking subjectively, no. If I'm asking objectively, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. And I'll explain both. Subjectively, it's because I know Bobby can still play. Everybody knows. At 100% of the snaps. he can still play. Now, objectively, it's like, okay, you don't have to have him out there on every down, right? But you got a serious problem if you got a Bobby Wagner on your sideline who's not even out there every down, because you know when he comes out there, he's going to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
And the likelihood of him being exposed, I saw it happen in the Denver Broncos game. I saw it happen. It was so I could see the wheels turning. I said, Sean Payton is trying to find a way to get Bobby exposed. And I think it may have only happened maybe one, maybe two times in that particular game, but it was like watching chess.
Mm.
And I will give DQ and Bobby all of the flowers, because that was a night, that was good. That's how I watched the game, right? Because it's like you already know what they're trying to expose. You know certain people's tendencies, right? That's the whole objective of war or a game, right? And you saw it often, but they didn't let it happen. And so that's how you knew, like, this could still work. But if he's not out there 100% of the time, then that means he's literally making a play every time he's out there.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a secret weapon, so to speak, if that's the case, and he's not out there 100% of the time. But, you know, and that's me being objective. Absolutely, sure. You know, but does he want to do that? I don't know.
And just with your talks around the building, like speaking on that topic, like, you know, a lot of people were saying, like, you know, take him out on obvious passes downs. We had some of the young guys like Kay Madrano and Jordan McGee's of the world and stuff like that. Why are they not out there? Because they have more speed. But I used to always say, like, it has something to do with trust. Maybe the coaches can't trust them, or maybe there's something that's missing, the reason why they're not on the field, and that you have a Bobby Wagner where we rather just live with, if he gets beat on a shifty fast back in the pass coverage, we'll live with that over giving up something else. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I think that is accurate, because, well, they went into 3 linebacker sets. The closer they got into Joe Witt being relieved of his defensive coordinator duties, you saw Frankie, Bobby, and Jordan out there. That was something I was saying before the change was made. I'm like, why does everybody think you got to swap one for the other? No, you do not. You can have 3 linebackers out there, especially once Will Harris got hurt, right? They could have started doing that as early as week 4 in Atlanta, right? They could have started doing that. They didn't. You can do both. Now, when it comes to Kay Madrano, one of the critiques about him coming out of college was physicality, was lack of tackling. That is where you see some of that activity, consistency needing to happen on special teams, right? Building that energy, because he's absolutely fast. Absolutely. But that was a dig on him coming out of college, was about the tackling. And linebackers, rule number 1, you must know how to tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw plenty of people catch people and miss the tackle.
Yeah.
You were there, but you didn't make the play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Any so there's a lot of talks about potentially and we can stay on defense before we jump to offense, but there's been a lot of talks about safety. You know, we have our defense pretty much, we have holes all across the field.
Yes.
So we already addressed the D-line, the cornerbacks, and the linebackers. So, like, Quan Martin is, I mean, I know he's still under the contract. What's this, year 4 of his rookie deal? So, you know, this is coming up on his last year. There was supposed to be some interest out there, you know, with different safeties on the market. We saw few guys get signed already. Like, what do you see us doing in that room? You know, Will Hurst got injured early last year, was able to fight and come back and then finish the season. So, you know, kudos to him. But, like, what else do we have there? How can we improve that room?
I think drafting one would probably work, but that is definitely an area where the team needs, you know, would need to focus for certain. Where they're going to go in terms of free agency, I mean, a lot of this still remains to be seen.
Correct.
But that is an area that they absolutely recognize they need to get better at. I think Jeremy Chin was a loss for the team. But Will Harris was an excellent pickup, but he got injured.
Yeah.
So you couldn't see all that could have happened and could happen with Will Harris last year, but he's still there, right? He's still under contract. So it will remain to be seen what happens there, but there definitely needs to be a movement there. I know we're not talking draft, but I mean, hey, with the 7, you still need to figure out where's your game wrecker. That's what I've been calling it. Where's your game wrecker? Where's your X factor? Where's your OMG person that the defense is absolutely going to, an offense is going to absolutely have to plan for when they get prepared to play the Washington Commanders. Now, the overall scheme, of course, just planning for Coach Jones and what they have up their sleeves, absolutely. But where's that person on defense that offenses have to plan for, just like defenses have to plan for Jayden Daniels?
Now, just the feeling coming out of the building, like where, like, you're in the building, you're around. So, like, what is the feeling coming out? That you feel like they're going to go defense or they're going to go offense? Because I'm on the record saying that, and I've been saying this for months, Jeremiah Love is the best player in the draft. Yeah. And I feel like if you pair him, depending on what we do at tight end, we need another receiver, a number 2 receiver. And you pair him and Bill and Jayden Daniels in the backfield, that's a nightmare, what I'm saying, for people to guard. I was saying we should get Isaiah Likely or Kyle Pitts, but, they're gone. So Chig is still out there. That would be another good addition at tight end. So, where do you see them going? Do you see like a Caleb Downs type pick, or do you see like a Sonny Styles, or where do you think they're really going to go? Like the true definition of like what they're looking for. They always talk about this mantra of being a commander, but I just feel like Jeremiah Love is just the total package. He just gives you everything, and he's just too good to pass on him. So, if they had to go defense, where do you think they go?
If they had to go defense, I would think they would go Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs or David Bailey, because I don't think Odafe Owe is, that's not the only answer. That is part of your solution. It's a part of it. But if it was defense, I would say Caleb Downs first, right? If it's defense, if he's there, Caleb Downs, and if he's not, maybe David Bailey, right? That's what I would say. And that's just based on being on site at Combine basis. I will, try to make my rounds as much as possible for pro days, but that's an important spot, 7, right? That's if they go defense. Now, I know a lot of folks have been talking about Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, rightfully so. But after the Combine and all of that, and their pro day is later on this month, the Giants and the Titans really, really want either or. And they pick before the Commanders. Yeah. They can't go wrong. You could sit there, just drink your coffee and wait till you pick. Yeah. And you look, you'd be like, oh, who's left? What are we doing? Okay, yep, yeah. Let me call him. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong.
But is that a reach to go? If they go Jeremiah Love, is that more reach at 7? I don't think it is. I think he's a generational. He's a Bijan Robinson. He's a Saquon Barkley S type player. He could do it all.
He's not. That's not a reach at all. No.
Yeah.
Nope.
It'll be a blessing if he falls to us.
Definitely would be a blessing. But you have your. People in the fan base no, we're so awful at deep. I'm best player available, and I just feel like Arvell Reese and all those other guys that you mentioned. I feel like they're going to be Bailey. I feel like they're going to be long gone before we pick at 7. So I'm just best available. To me, Jeremiah Love is better than Caleb Downs. Just to me, just overall player. But Caleb Downs is really good. But I feel like we've been drafting for need for years. A lot of the times, and it just doesn't work out for the need. You got to take best player available. We passed on Christian Gonzalez. We passed on Jeremiah Owasu-Kuramala. We passed on a lot of guys over the years, and we've seen how it worked out for us.
It is a known thing, and that's running back we haven't jumped offense yet, but running back is a position that it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Do they re-sign Chris Rodriguez? Does Jeremy McNichols come back? It is a known fact they need to bring in somebody to help build. Yeah. And so which one of these rooms are you adding to? Which one of them are you adding through the draft versus free agency? Are you doing both? Right? Which is kind of what they do. If you really look at it, they kind of do both, in some regard. So no, that's not a reach at all. Like, if he's still there, I don't know why they would pass him up if he's even still there. Quite frankly, like,
Yeah.
hey, he may not be there either. So it's really just sit back and chill and see who's there. But if you got a Caleb Downs, a David Bailey, and a Jeremiah Love, see what's gonna. Everybody believes we all know what the Raiders are gonna do with number one. It would be like if they did something wild with number one, and then nobody know like what just happened.
Yeah.
Could because you just don't know.
They could spend the whole draft for sure.
Yeah, going back to the Baker Mayfield draft when he went one and nobody expected that to happen.
It would turn the whole top 10 upside. It would turn the whole first round upside down. Because right now nobody knows what's going to happen after one. We're all predicting this is what happens in one, but after that, you just don't know. You really don't know. And of course, Carnell Tate has been mocked to the Commanders at 7. Spencer Fano has been mocked to the Commanders as well. I mean, we're naming all players that have been mocked. I wouldn't go those directions, but
yeah, same.
Yeah, same.
So yeah. So transitioning the offense. So far today, like we already mentioned that, Tunsil re-signed his deal. We did not mention Mariota. Mariota was brought back on a 1-year, $7 million deal with a max value up to $11 million. And on the outside looking in, we always look at it as well, it's good to have Mariota back. But actually, being there, being amongst them, it's like what type of energy or what does Mariota bring just to the locker room, to the team in the aspect?
So let me say this, because I've been, wherever show I go on, I try to really reel in this point, and it maps to all of these guys or anybody that's returning to the team. And if you see me do it like this, it's because I'm checking my phone between my text messages and everything else. So
me too. We got to check the breaking news. Yeah, facts.
Real time, real live stream. Right. Yeah, I gotta check. And I'm sitting here like, where did I put my glasses? But anyway, the Commanders on the NFLPA survey. Does everyone know what the NFLPA survey is? They ranked number 3 overall in teams. Number 3. Okay, just 2-3 years ago they were dead last.
Yeah,
they're typically at the bottom of this survey. Okay, so they went from 32 to 11, and they went from 11 to 3. The survey is open between like middle of November to the beginning of December, and the whole league, can vote. Anybody, they can all vote. You can vote for your team, whichever. And when the team talks about the culture, it's real. Okay. So I was on site. I was there. I mean, I've been 9 years in the business, 8 years on site with the Commanders. That 4 and 13 year, any losing year, all of those were worse that I've experienced than what just happened with from 12 and 5 to 5 and 12. It's night and day, because losing is losing. But I saw a lot of narratives around losing the locker room and the vibe and this, and it just was never like that. It was never, ever like that. And I would, on record, off record, have conversations, because you can't really talk about off record, but all I know is it wasn't like that. And even when I would be trying to ask questions to see, not in a probing way, but you build trust and you want to know. But I knew, and I would say, I'm just trying to confirm what I'm feeling and what I'm sensing around here. No, you right. This ain't. They were. I think they were more in shock that the season was going the way it was. They were more in shock than the fan base. Trust me. Yeah. Okay, but it wasn't spilling out in a way. That was bad. And I asked Marcus this question. It was later on in the season. I think it was when it was determined that Jayden was not going to play anymore in the season. I asked him, publicly, Marcus, what is the vibe around here? What is the current state of the brotherhood? And he said it's clean, right? It's clean. Everybody still we love coming here to work. We love coming here. And I know that Mariota, because we've been saying it wrong. Mariota, he's gotten a bad rap maybe over the years, but he's been very open about you have to learn, right? You don't know everything. You have to learn, and being the starting quarterback, you have a lot of weighing on you. And I'll be honest in saying that he is definitely part of the core that I've witnessed, that Jayden couldn't have a better group of guys and veterans to learn from. Seriously, I think that is going to be, it was just pivotal. Nobody knew that the team was going to have the year that they had last year. Nobody knew that the injuries were going to happen. Jayden had never gone through it before. And for him to have somebody like Marcus right there in his corner, and just because of how Jayden is, he is the biggest cheerleader for everybody on his team. Whether it was Marcus or Josh, of course, he and Sam Harmon like best buds. I mean, that's him. But Marcus has a lot to do with, they, not Adam, but, Adam too, but Dan Quinn really established that culture, and they got to find guys that can help cultivate that. And Marcus is very important to that. Marcus is, Zach Ertz is, Bobby Wagner is, there. Von Miller last year, he fell right into the fold. So all the veteran guys did, really, seriously, all. And so Marcus is a part of that. He's a part of that building. He's a part of that room. And with David Blau being promoted to the offensive coordinator, yes, everybody knows how close they all were and are to Cliff Kingsbury. You got to keep that continuity there for sure. And I will tell anybody, I just will, first year of this regime, Atlanta Falcons game, when Jayden Daniels was exhausted. He was exhausted. He was kneeling down. Marcus is the one who goes over there, tells him to get up. Mm-hmm. He's the one who talks him through. Take a breath. Go out here and give your God-given abilities and talents to win this football game. That's the kind of dude he is. And I asked Coach Quinn about that, and he was like, I'm so glad you asked me about Marcus, because I saw Marcus. That's him. I've seen him like that the whole entire time. And that's just him. And so I would have probably been, I get this business. It's hard, though, when people start leaving and you build relationships and everything, that's from the staff and the players. But, that did give me a brief sigh of relief. Like, okay, all right. Because this is a big year for this whole entire organization in their third year together. It really is a big year.
Yeah, with with us, signing Laramie to the extension today, Andrew Wiley got extended, and also Allegretti, he had his presser earlier today. What's the feeling is with Allegretti? Is this more so a competing for a starting position? We're still early in free agency, so we don't know, or is this more of a depth piece?
I think it's more of a depth piece like last year, right? But there's always opportunities to compete. That's one of the things that's one of the pillars of what they're building in this program is on competition. So yes, absolutely to the depth piece, but I think it's an opportunity to compete. We saw what happened last year with the left guard position. You can't just say that's the starter. You can't get beat out of your position. And so, yes. Yeah. And that's a really tight room as well. Offensive line is very tight, very close. And so I was drinking a cup of coffee. I didn't get on Nick's press conference. I had a question for Nick. So I sat that one out. But I listened to it, and he's just one of those veterans, he and Andrew Wiley, that understand what championship caliber teams do. Right? On the field, but also behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And again, I'll just say it wasn't that they weren't doing and taking things seriously behind the scenes. They really were. I think they were, trust me, they were way more shocked than anybody in the fan base, and actually way more hurt and upset by what happened last season. But this is not a culture that they're going to take that out on each other or just infighting. That's just not who they are as humans.
Yeah, and that's exciting to hear. You know, again, being a fan of this team for so long and all that we've been through and things like that. And we do hear, you know, the coach, Dan Quinn, talk about the culture and all that. But, you know, just to continue to hear that they, you know, it translates to the players and they're, you know, they forming their their camaraderies and things of that nature. It's just exciting to hear. It makes things a little easier. I mean, you know, like you look at last year, you see 5-12, you think it's a wreck, but like you said, it's not a wreck. It was just, you know, bad luck in a sense. You know what I mean, or you know, lack of performance where it wasn't, you know, a culture thing. So that's definitely exciting, and it continues to make you confident that, you know, even after a losing season, other players would want to still, you know, come here, and things of that nature. So it's just, you know, the fan in us still wants to see Commander sign all these players and things like that. But like you said, it's still a lot of players left and a lot more to do. So, you know, that it's exciting to, you know that. And, you know, I'll just transition right into it. Like we heard that we were going to be big spenders and, you know, things of that nature. And the rumor comes out that, you know, we were in on Pierce. But in a sense, it pretty much, you know, he chose to go back to the Colts. So, you know, like with Debo, seems like he's out the door. Right now, it's just Terry, Jalen, Luke, Burks. I feel like I might be missing somebody. I'm not sure. But, you know, what else could we do in that room? One of my top targets is off the board, Mike Evans. You know, since we've been talking, Shaheed went back to the Seahawks. You know, well, we all know about the, you know, Ayuk thing, and my partner Reedie's been getting on me in the group chat all week because I've been saying I think Ayuk is a lot. You know, just once he's released, I think the entire NFL knows where he wants to go. But from the inside, do you think it's real interest from the front office? We know Jayden and the rest of the guys probably wouldn't, but like, do you think AP and everybody else is really, really interested in Ayuk, or do you see other moves being made there in that room?
Well, I mean, is there interest there? I think I can always say yes, there's interest there. They drafted him, and, you know, with the 49ers, and he's just a hell of a daggone player when healthy. Mm-hmm. And I think what I have my eye on, right, is they've done the experiment of picking up injured players before, and I don't know where they stand with how this is going to work, right? That's one thing. The other thing for consideration, because would it be a shock if he came here? No. Would it be a shock if he didn't? No. And I'm going to get into that as well, because it's kind of like things went south in San Fran, and it does it map to the culture? Do you care? Is he healthy? Do you care? Like, it's some things that we saw last year what can happen when you don't have your players available during training camp, during OTAs, during training camps. I'm going to stick with it, even though Cliff is in LA. It's time on task. Okay? And Jayden needs that time on task. They all need that time on task. And do you want to bring in somebody that's not healthy right now and be like, he'll be all right by the start of the season? Okay, but can he practice? That time on task starting in May is critical. Oh my goodness, I learned that lesson too. Everybody did last year, right? Because I still feel like, you know, everybody was robbed of not being able to really see, and I'm gonna turn my light on here in a second, fellas, of not being able to see what Jayden, Terry, and Debo could have been.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, Noah Brown, even though Noah was dealing with a whole lot of injuries, he came in like that. I will say, for sure. Everybody got robbed of seeing what that could have been. And I personally wouldn't mind them bringing Debo back, but you know,
Me too.
because he did so much without it being what was supposed to happen. You know, now paying Alec Pierce the money that they offered, I was like, well, and I get that he's much younger than Terry, but you know, hey, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, to easily give him 30, and you went through the ringer with 30 last year. After
I was like,
the numbers, it was like,
Yeah, but I think it's the youth. What is he, 26, 27?
sure. He's like 25, yeah, something like that.
And so by the time he's finished that deal, you know, he would be 30. So like, I get it from that standpoint.
Turn my light on. Hold on. Well, you go ahead. I'm turn my light on.
No, I was going to say, like, I get it from that standpoint of if they did go out and bring in the Alec Pierce, you know, because that, you know, that upside, just being able, you know, to play until he's 30, where Terry's already at the 30-year-old, you know, window now. But yeah.
Absolutely. And
Definitely. It was interesting. I mean, we knew he was on the table, but, you know, and that's the other thing that I think everybody needs to understand is that players have a choice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so, you know, they have a choice, and a lot of players are going to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially a guy like him. You know, I think this is his first real money deal. So, you know, he was trying to get paid.
Yep.
And then, I mean, the only thing that really left to talk about the offense, because we pretty much addressed each position group throughout. But tight end. All right, so Likely's off the board. He got a nice payday from the Giants. Pitts got franchised. Otten went back to the Bucks. You know, so you still got Chig, you still have Njoku, guys on the open market. In the draft, you have Sadiq, and you know, we still have Adam Peters saying that the door is still open for Zach. And I was listening to Cam, and he kind of broke it down where he feels that more so means that, you know, we go through camp with whoever we pick up, and if it don't work out and they feel like they need more in their room, all right, hey Zach, you know, how you doing? Can you know, we want you back type thing. But the fan base, when you hear Zach still open for Zach, fan base kind of go, wow, because just like with the linebackers, we feel like we need more athletic ability there. We need more speed. We need somebody that's going to be able to, you know, make some people miss, catch the ball downfield, stretch the field, things of that nature. You know, so with Ben Sinnott in the room, and Blau says that he feels like he has a role on this team. Do you see a scenario where we roll into the you know, season with what we have and maybe potentially bringing Zach back, or maybe just getting, you know, someone else to fill in, you know, just to be an extra body there and kind of roll with what we have with like Bates and Sinnott?
Absolutely, because that's what Adam Peters said at Combine. And I posted something and I ended up deleting it. And the reason why I deleted it, I was like, okay, the fan base is just completely misunderstanding what I said. I said, sounds like Adam Peters, they're happy with their tight end room. They are. Okay? Because two things can be true. He went down and listed John Bates, Ben Sinnott, Colson Yankoff, and Lawrence Cager. He listed all four of them, right? Then said that the door was open for Zach. He said, we're going to leave the door open for Zach. So that means they're going to leave the door open for Zach, okay? So they're going to do that. And then I tweeted, I said, but Isaiah Likely is up the road. I mean, he's no longer available. This was that day. And I'm like, nobody reads this whole tweet, first of all. Second of all, clearly nobody's listening to these press conferences because that's literally what Adam Peters said. When he was asked about the tight end room, he said, we're happy with our guys at tight end. And he went and he literally listed each one of them off by name and said that the door was open for Zach. Now, but then I was like, everybody completely missed my point when I said, however, Isaiah Likely's up the road. What does that mean? They're going to go get somebody else, you guys. Okay? They got a lot of money. They're going to go and get somebody else. They're not just going to not add to this room. So let's just dispel that myth. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want everybody to read for comprehension and understanding. But I also have to understand that I make the assumption that everybody is watching these press conferences and listening to these press conferences before they comment. That's not the case. So that's on me. But I know you all do, right? That's how you are asking such great questions, because you're listening, you pay attention, and that's fantastic. Now, the other thing about just the tight end room, there's still some people available. There's still the draft. But what did I say earlier? The 2024 draft class. This is the big
show up. Yeah.
In Senate, you're up. You are up. David Black, y'all up. You're up. Because now there's like literally no reason why he's not an active part of this offense. Right? If you have him as an active part of the offense, then we're not even really having this conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Because if everybody have seen or known what he can do, then everybody is completely comfortable, right, with John Bates, Ben Sinnott, Colson Yankoff, Lawrence Cager, and the door being open for Zach Ertz. The outlier is we do not know what Ben Sinnott can do.
Right. Yeah, so don't feel bad about that.
Challenge, I should say.
This fan base, they don't read for context. They don't listen for context. They take one thing you say and then they're going to flip it and make that be the true meaning without listening to the whole clip.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And so that's the challenge, right? And I want to put this out there because I think everybody needs to really be paying attention to this. John Harbaugh, okay, I followed him a bit at Combine. The Giants.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later. I'm just saying
they're gonna play. Yeah. They can be bright.
Yeah, and so but okay, just quick commercial break to say that. Yes, and thank you for acknowledging that. I know what I said, and I know I wasn't trying to be harmful. That it sounds like they're happy with their tight end room. 4 tight ends with the door coming back, or 5. If Ben Sinnott has been playing his behind off or even utilized, we wouldn't even be having a conversation.
Right. Because again, like you said, we don't know what he could do because we didn't see.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. He needs to be So he needs to be utilized. He needs to be utilized. I believe he will. Let me be clear on that. I believe he absolutely will be. So
cool. And I was going to say this one thing too, because this is a battle that me and my brother has a lot, where he's on the side of it, like where if they aren't on the field, then they just not it. Where I look at it as coach's preference, coaches think of fits. It could be a lot of different variables of why a guy is not playing. So you look at that room and you ask questions like, why Ben has not been on the field, and all year, I was arguing that I just don't think Cliff may not like him. I mean, when you bring him, and not to say maybe not personally, but like he just may not be a top of his favorite guys. And it's like when Ben Sinnott was brought up in conversations, this is like Cliff kind of just diverted and kind of, Cliff never really gave us a whole lot with his answers and things of that nature. And I just felt like you can kind of like see how he felt. He may not say much, but you can kind of see his demeanor and just realize like, all right, he just ain't feeling it. He more so, this is what I want to do. This is my system. This is how I operate, and I'm a roll like that. Mm-hmm. So that's my viewpoint. But again, Reedie was saying, well, he ain't on the field. He ain't it. Ertz may be the better option. And I'm like, I get that. But I feel like I see around the league where coaches, utilize their talent and try to give those guys opportunity because they know they are the future. And how else are you going to know what they can do unless you put them in game time situations?
Yeah. Now, I think it's a couple different things. I think that, when they did the coordinators press conference, Coach Quinn talked about relentlessly teaching. And I mean, I don't know about anybody else, what you can tell on game day, I'm sure. I'm like, well, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody does get hurt, which we saw happen with Zach, somebody needs to come in.
Yes.
Right? So that's what relentlessly teaching and practice. And I have, I can get on my soapbox about how I feel about that anyway, because I have a different feeling about that. But, but okay. Clearly that wasn't happening. And I'm certain if you're bringing folks in, right? Even if you have somebody on the practice squad, put these guys in.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, absolutely, sure, of course, there's a preference for Zach Ertz. Well, who wouldn't? Right? You know what I mean? Like, let's just be honest, right? Because it's Zach Ertz. But does he need to be? But there's opportunity to get better or more creative. You can use that's the same thing I used to say about the linebackers. It can be. It doesn't have to be one answer all the time. If you're relentlessly teaching and you're getting people prepared for the game, they're together all the time. So are you just not using them because, I used to have that same challenge with the run game when it came to Cliff. Well, like, why you just not use it? What happened? And then when it was working, you went away from it, right? So it's like, yes, there's only but so many snaps. True. Well, these guys need to be getting ready for game day. They need to be getting ready to get in the game. And if they are part of the active roster that game day, you never know what can happen, i.e. when Zach Ertz got hurt, right? Yeah, sure, the game was lost, all that, got it. But it still wasn't like Ben Sinnott was utilized for the remainder of the season. It wasn't still, that's just my read on it, because I'm like, well, if he's here, put him in. What we doing? What is everybody? And so I tied that to the relentlessly coaching aspect of it, or relentlessly teaching aspect of it, and being like, okay, then I'm going to use my clues. I do a segment on my show called Use Your Clues, and I tell people, use your clues. I'm going to use my clues and say that wasn't happening. Because there's no reason why Ben Sinnott isn't a part of everybody's conversation. At this point, right? It's year 3. And there's plenty of draft picks who are starters, and it's no question that they're the starter. So
I thought maybe it was like maybe something in the mental aspect of the game, or maybe, he didn't know like techniques and things of that nature. But you bring up a good point. Like, he's active, like he's getting in, he's in all of these like blocking sets and stuff like that. So why aren't you utilizing him in the pass game? Like, that was one of the things when he came out of Kansas State, that he could be in different roles. Like, he could be kind of like an H-back, line him up anywhere for. But we haven't yet to see that. I mean, the really most that we've seen him was the pass in the NFC Championship from Tress, if I'm being honest, like, other than that, very limited.
He had like a what, tight end pop touchdown with the first year, something like that. That about it.
Or have somebody, maybe it's been in the fullback role, similar to what the Ravens do. Bowie TV, we also cover the Ravens. So, something, do something. But again, if he was utilized, nobody would have unraveled when I said that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they got to go get somebody. Well, yes, they do. But, I mean, they got a draft pick right there. And he was drafted quite high.
Yeah.
Not to be utilized. So I'm going to hold you accountable. Play him. Right. And if you can't, all right. That's a whole nother show and conversation. Right? But if you don't play him at all, and that is one that is an outlier that I don't understand. There's certain others, if you all asked me, like I shared something earlier with you all, I kind of know why, right? Yeah. And that I don't, other than you were not utilizing all of your assets accordingly.
Yep.
And that is why you're not here. But I mean... I hate it.
I'm gonna use my clues with that one right there.
Hey, Reedie Zee knows. That's what I said. Yeah.
Bizarre. A lot of times. I would be like, what is happening? I'd be like, is something wrong? I gotta tell y'all this story. This is real. We were in Madrid. Y'all went to Madrid, right?
Nah, we didn't.
No? Okay. Okay.
But we were supposed to do that. We were supposed to.
It was around Madrid,
show.
right? Okay, yes, got you. Okay, I knew it was a reason why I was bringing up Madrid and talking to you. You're in the press box. It was freezing in there too. But somebody says, "Is Chris Rodriguez has to be hurt?" This is me now shifted to the run game, and it was like Chris Rodriguez has to be hurt, and I was like, "He's not hurt." And everybody looked at me. They were like, "Well, how do you know?" Well, first of all, I mean, sometimes we realize people are hurt before they say anything to us or even announced because we're there in real time, so we know. But I'm like, I've covered Chris long enough in person that I know when he's hurt. I know something is wrong. And I'm like, he's not hurt. Everyone's like, are you sure? Because they're not playing him. They're not putting him back in the game. I said, he's not putting him back in. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I said, but he is not injured. He is not injured. And that's all I want to say. In terms of my example of like things that were happening that made sense when it was happening, and then it just stopped, right?
Yeah.
Utilize Benson. Why is Benson out of the game? I don't know. I don't know either. And so like it was happening often when people were healthy.
Yeah.
And dealing with an injured, riddled unit.
Yeah, there were times when we would be sitting there like, well, why isn't Bill playing? And then next thing you know, he gets in like in the fourth or fifth series, and then he breaks off good runs, and then he takes him out again. And I'm like, well, he's the hot hand right. He's the hot hand right now. Why are you taking him out? And like, why wasn't he starting off the game? It just didn't make sense.
It would be different. It would be different for sure. So. All love the Cliff though. I love, all love the Cliff, but it would be different in game for sure than what would be happening in practice. That's all I know.
Gotcha. But yeah, anything
I don't think
you want?
I was gonna do that though. Let me be clear on that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think they're trying to right all the wrongs with this one, and I mean, even though I feel like he is going to have his, his say so and be able to do it his way, I feel like they already prepped him enough to know, like, all right, you're making this big jump. We got to make this count. This is what we want, and you can have all your creativity around this, and go from there. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he was who I projected to be the next Commanders offensive coordinator last summer. When I did a couple shows, because of course, last summer everybody's thinking the Commanders are going to do the same or better, this season. So it's like you're thinking that Cliff automatic, of course he's going to be gone. He's going to get a head coaching job. He's going to go, he's gone. So it was like David Blau's next. He's next. And so to that point, he really does know the assets, right? He really does know. And another conversation that I think is a very, 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 very important point is center and left guard. Yeah. We didn't get into that, but those are two very, very important points, you all, to see what the Commanders do there. I mean, currently they don't have a center. I mean, Nick Allegretti. Okay.
Yeah. And I was looking at the left guard situation, like maybe Coleman works out there. And we'll see how that play out. But definitely at the center spot, it's like, okay, when we got Allegretti, and he started out at guard, I felt like he was kind of, him and Dieter, I felt like they both were pretty much kind of getting pushed off the ball a lot. Where Allegretti had moments where he kind of made differences and picked, made it arguable to keep him and things of that nature. Being versatile also helps. I think he's a solid backup, but just to trot out there week one, like I said, if he trots out there week one as a starting center, I think that's a problem. And like we need to exhaust all options prior to that to do it. And I mean, we saw Linderbaum. I mean, I didn't really think that was going to be a signing because at 20 plus a year after you just re-signed Tunsil and you got money you already allocated to Cosme, it's just didn't really make sense putting another big contract in that in that room. But we started getting traction since yesterday, saying that it was interest. And it didn't happen, so a lot of us can live with that. But then, kind of seeing like, all right, what's next? Who else is out there? And I'm not really.
Connor McGovern came off the board.
Yeah, McGovern got his what he get like 50-some million?
Yeah,
on like a 2 year something like that. So
And they paying money for these centers. Now, there's definitely centers in the draft.
I heard that though. I did hear that. There's about 3 to 5 starters that could in the draft.
There are, and I mean, for what it's worth, they there's an offensive tackle. I don't know if we can play center. I have to look Spencer Fano, but if they went that way, depending on who was left, that's all I'm saying. Depends on who's left on the board. I don't know where we're going with this. I don't think it's a Christian Gonzalez is there. You pick Emmanuel Forbes. I don't think it's that kind of situation. But let's hope not. I don't think so. Let me stop putting that out in the airwaves. But there are centers in the draft for sure.
Yeah, and then they're basically saying like the reports are that Chris Paul has kind of like he's priced himself out of basically coming back because somebody's going to give him a astronomical deal that kind of like is not even on the table for us. So like talk about that because you mentioned that left guard position.
I mean, let's see if they match it. Let's see what happens. I mean, they were very, very, very pleased with Chris Paul, but let's just keep it a buck. He beat Brandon Coleman out of his job, and this was this regime's left tackle in his rookie season.
Yeah.
And he did very well. It wasn't like he had a bad year. Yeah. And so there's a lot of like, I feel like that's a conversation that's kind of flying under the radar, not in a negative way. I mean, Chris Paul, he earned it? He absolutely earned it. But then this becomes all right, well, then is this like a decline? Or you almost figure if they go and trade for Laramie Tunsil, then in my mind, it was they already knew they were moving Brandon. I assumed they were moving Brandon to right tackle.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, they're going to move him to guard. And in my head, I'm like, oh, he's going to have like a Pro Bowl year. He probably be just fine at left guard. So once that started being kind of visible that it wasn't working out, I was like, wow, what happened? It's still like a what happened. But and that's no shade to Chris. Let me be very clear. Chris Paul is a grinder. He is so super smart. He is so super strong. He deserved it. You earn that spot. It's about competition. You earn that spot. Absolutely 100%. But remember, there was also some weeks where Brandon Coleman was inactive.
Right.
So
that's very true.
It's so even from a depth piece perspective, it was once people started getting injured or things started happening. Now you're active, right? Okay. But like, because I think, come on, Candy. When Laramie got hurt in the Kansas City game, well, he wasn't inactive that game, right? Because I think there was questions about whether Laramie was even going to play that game. It was something had happened. And
it was like game time decision.
It was a game time with Laramie.
Of something going on.
Yeah, Laramie, right. Laramie ended up playing like a couple of snaps. He went on, go ahead, get out. Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead, get out. And Brandon came in, but it was kind of under the radar because it was like, well, did they know something was going on with Laramie? All of that. And that's why Brandon was active because Brandon hadn't been active. That's what it was. He hadn't been active. And all of a sudden it was like, he's active. And it was like, okay, a few snaps in, Laramie gets hurt. And they take him out, but they traded for Laramie Tunsil. So that makes you feel like, okay, you weren't going to keep Brandon Coleman at left tackle. You traded for Laramie Tunsil.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then, back to your point about the center, like me personally, like no disrespect to Alec Reedie, I just don't think he's a starter in this league. I think he's a really good backup. You could play him a game or two in a pinch, but like from what I saw, he just was kind of getting pushed around. And I think if they're talking about going more under center with Jayden this year, like you're just asking for something to happen, like, him getting pushed back, stepping on his foot, he twists his ankle. Just anything can happen just being under center. So like that whole process and that whole thing with that, I just think they just have to upgrade there. And then, like you said, that left guard, like I think they have confidence in Brandon Coleman, but I just like the writing is kind of like on the wall for that because you went out and you traded for Laramie, and then Chris Paul comes in and he loses his position to him. So it's just like, okay, now so where do we go here?
Yes, those are two positions I would be watching very closely in free agency. Yeah. And I mean, of course, free agency leads to draft, but they're very important, very, very important for Jayden, for the team overall. And I was like, I remember a time when the right side was in question, and now I'm like, ooh, Because I will say, and I've talked to some of my fellow colleagues on the beat to be like, did you know they were going to release Tyler Biadasz just to see? Because sometimes people do know things are going to happen. And so far, that one got us. So I knew that happened when we were in Combine. And so I was like, they saw somebody they like in this draft. That and Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum.
I just felt like it still was a little premature, though. Like, make that move when you know you got Linderbaum.
You got it. Yeah, he was going to be high. He was going to be high. I mean, when Eric DeCosta did his media availability that Tuesday, he was clear to be like, we gave him a market-setting deal. And I was like, well, what did he say that for? Oh, okay. You just want to throw it out there that you already offered this man like $20+ million a year. Yeah. But I think the Raiders ended up paying like $27 million. I think he's getting like $27 million a year or something.
Linderbaum. 27 a year, correct.
Yeah, was Biadasz owed like a roster bonus or something at the start of the new league year on Wednesday?
I think they saved a little bit on the cap by releasing him. Yeah, but I mean, it was still not.
They didn't June 1 it, so they
So was he due like some type of bonus on it at the start of the league year? That they had to do it now, that they couldn't wait.
Maybe, I think so, yeah, because they just did that. Yeah, that was fast. I mean, he did that before Marshawn. I mean, well, Marshawn's was a bit more complicated, yes, because of injury and all that kind of stuff. But still, I was like, oh, well, who? Yeah, I was so real. I got to share because I'm authentic. I literally was enjoying my Thursday evening watching the linebackers at the Combine. I get a text, and then I saw the public news, and I was like, what? Where are my glasses? I had to get my glasses, had to figure some things out, and was like, all right, this is how I'm going to end up spending my Friday morning, because I had to do a couple shows, and then there was unexpected news, and I was really enjoying watching the Combine, actually. Real life. I'm actually watching drills, and they interrupted me. So I was like, what? Tyler Biadasz, and it's crazy because that was like the last person I thought would get released.
Yeah, the last person.
I'm really good at these things. And
Tyler Badass. Just like the sites always just was happy about Tyler. Like I just felt
I
like
had to think back and go back
jail to that old line.
Yeah, I had to go back and listen to the pressers. Like we didn't. Was asked about tight ends. We asked about the running backs. I asked about the wide receivers. It was just like conversation. Nobody. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to go back and start looking at film because I'm just like, well, I thought he did well. Like, and then you start pointing out different things that you see on the tape, on all 22 and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just it wasn't real like egregious things. Like it was okay. Yeah, it was some things that happened. He slid one way and he should have slid the other way, but I didn't think it warranted to just releasing him,
No, I didn't think so either, but, it happens clearly. We just hadn't heard anything. So that's what was just, it's one thing when you think it's going to happen because you heard something, because that's the talk of what they're looking at or what's happening. But this will be an interesting offseason. It just started, you all. So I would
facts.
Yeah,
I wouldn't trip too bad about anything that didn't happen today because, like I just said, running back is an area. We got to, just to be fair, objective, linebacker. Linebacker is an area because here's the reality: it ain't like Bobby Wagner resigned yet.
Correct.
So linebacker, left guard, center, wide receiver. Let's see what happens at tight end. Right. Let's see what happens at corner. Definitely safety. Right. So another edge rusher.
Exactly.
So yeah.
I was thinking, I ain't gonna hold you. I was definitely thinking that like, all right, so we got Oway. Do we go still make a big splash with another edge rusher? I prefer Trey Hendrickson, but I don't think we would jump out there and pay that type of money in that room. But I did tell Reedie earlier I would not be mad if seeing a Bradley Chubb, someone of that nature, coming here on No.
I'm thinking about
The edge rusher.
I'm thinking about.
Um,
I'm thinking
yeah,
about that.
Bradley Chubb was with the Broncos, and who was he last with?
Oh, okay. All these names.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I thought he was with maybe the Texans. Maybe I think it was maybe the Texans. Chubb was with the Texans. Maybe
He
I could be
did.
wrong.
Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
Oh,
Yeah,
got you.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
it's
was
still a
released. He'd
lot.
been on the market a while, so I thought he would be somebody we potentially look at early, but he made it
I
into this
mean,
point.
I was following the Trey Hendrickson thing a lot last year. I was actually a little obsessed with it, even though I knew once they were out of it, because they had nothing to give. So I was just like, oh, I mean, I made friends with the people on the Bengals beat. I was doing all kinds of stuff because I just knew it was happening last year. They were very much in the conversation. So I don't know. I'm trying. So Trey Hendricks is definitely a thing. Devin Lloyd is still available, to my knowledge, at this time.
Yes.
There's another linebacker that's available too. All of the names are coming together. Wide receiver. Did Juwan Jennings? I don't think he signed anywhere yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So he
was it Booty? What is his name? Kendrick.
Romeo
Bourne?
Dobbs.
Yeah, Bourne signed with the Cardinals.
Yes, Kendrick
Bourne
Bourne.
signed with the Cardinals. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Romeo Dobbs is another name to look out for wide receivers in Juwan Jennings. I'm looking at is Joey Bosa available? Oh, I don't think I knew that. Maybe because I just wasn't paying attention. We know we talked about Chig earlier with tight ends. Rico Dowdle is available. Or did he just sign with somebody?
Yeah, he signed with the Steelers.
Steelers.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. All right. Well. Huh. All right. Well, Debo's still available. It is. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind Debo back for the low. Run it back.
The low 1 year, 20 million, because that's what it's going to take, at least at a minimum.
It'd be interesting. Noah Fant, he signed, right?
Yeah, he just signed. I saw his name come through. He signed with somebody.
And Njoku is still available. Okay, I'm looking at my list of who I knew. This linebacker thing is going to be interesting, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. In the center thing, absolutely. Center and left guard. Center and left guard, for certain. Very, 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 very interesting, gentlemen. Yeah. The linebacker from the Chiefs, I don't think they signed him.
What's his name?
Tranquil?
Yeah, Leo. His name Leo? His first name?
I don't know. I don't know what his first name is. I know it's Tranquil 56. I think he's 56.
Yes. That is the one.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Yes. So it's I'm trying to think. Because I mean, they could draft somebody in all of these, but you need every position I just named. You need to sign a free agent.
Yeah, you definitely do. It's a lot of holes to fill. Was it like 20-something free agents?
They definitely need to re-sign Chris Paul. In my opinion.
But we had 20-some free agents, but I think they were saying I think last year we signed like 50-some players in free agency. So with a lot of 1-year deals, you kind of expect, similar activity to kind of fill in the roster.
Yeah, at a point you have to get to that, because everybody can't be a multiple year and all of this big money. The cap ain't gonna go that far.
Correct.
It's a good market for linebackers. Money wise, it is. But Chris Paul, true. I don't know. This is gonna be interesting. Center and left guard is what my eyes are like. I wouldn't mind Debo back. I wouldn't mind any of them back, honestly. This is like, don't come back. No.
Yeah, Debo was in my plans to return. Then I had us getting Pierce. But, we'll see if the Ayuk thing works out, and It's going to be a prove it type deal. It's not going to be much money. He's still going to get a lot of his money from San Francisco deal. No, is there any money left over? I thought they voided everything, right?
Yeah, I think they voided what was left, but he got whatever he got up front.
Right. Yeah. So
because they gotta wait to release them. They
gotta wait till at least Wednesday to release them. I think they got to do it by the start of the league year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was beating the drum for Debo back because I feel like you said, I think he has a lot to give, and we didn't actually get to see it for real. With Terry, and if they bring some other guys in here that are dynamic, that could be a sight to see.
I think we all got robbed. That's what I was saying. I was like, we all got robbed from the Jayden, Terry, Debo, like what could have been. And because of the injuries, Debo had to start doing so much more on offense. He essentially became the one. Yeah. And that was supposed to be his role. He was really going to be a Swiss Army knife. And we saw the impact he made in kick return on special teams. Yeah. And I remember at the start of the season, people were like, you really think Debo is going to be the kick returner? I was like, yes. They were like, no, that's not why. Yeah, he is, and he did a great job. So, it was so crazy. The way last year, I was like, did somebody put a root on the Commanders? Because that was the weirdest thing ever. But hey, you got to figure they were so healthy the year before.
Yeah. It happens.
Good time, but we were just always.
Yeah, but we want to just thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time, dropping these gems that you drop. We definitely want to bring you back during the season sometime, maybe training camp, if you're open to that.
I would absolutely be open to it. I know, like I said, you all had reached out and we didn't make it, it didn't work out. And so I'm glad this worked out. I'm so happy to come back on with you guys. You guys had reached out to me. I think you came up, you introduced yourselves to me at training camp. Yeah. And so I really, really, really appreciate you all supporting me, Bowie TV. Just really, really appreciate it. So thank you for all that you all are doing as well, to keep the fan base in the know and keep watching the press conferences, because a lot of times I talk stuff from press conferences, and I'm thinking everybody else is too. So I'm glad that you all are. So
definitely.
I always love when I hear, hi, coach.
Hey,
I hear you. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, there she go.
Hey, coach.
That's what's up. Sometimes I just be falling back. I be like, I'm drinking my coffee. I don't have nothing to say. Sure. After games last year, I was often that I was like, I can't ask the question I really want to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Wait till that Monday morning Zoom.
Yes, I got you on Monday because everybody need to come down from this. This is bad. So
It definitely was a pleasure. Again, salute to you, and we appreciate you always. No problem. Come again. All
right. See you guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good one.
But yeah, what a great interview. Touching on a lot. A lot of inside news around the team. Definitely, some takes on some, candidates moving forward and whatnot. Day one is still live. We didn't get any Commanders news while we were here, but we'll definitely see what plays out. Make sure you stay tuned into our pages. Follow us at Reedie Zee on all platforms. If you're watching, we hit we had like over 200 plus watching us between X and YouTube, and then on the Instagram side. For all of y'all out there, make sure you are subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you get our live videos, but also make sure you follow us on all platforms where you can catch the latest news. And if you want to support the channel, you can definitely do so via Super Chats or Cash App at Reedie Zee. But yeah, if bro don't have anything else to touch on, then we can head on out and get back on our phones and keep refreshing our Twitter feed. Yeah, for sure. But until next time, Reedie Zee over and out.
Reedie Zee Show. It's the Reedie Zee Show.